Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spilling Our Tea, a podcast dedicated to amplifying the voices of Asian women who are rewriting the rules of success. We're all about sharing the real, raw stories of women who have started their own businesses, overcome barriers, and are carving out spaces where we can thrive, not just survive. So this podcast exists because I believe our stories matter. For too long, we've been overlooked and our struggles silenced. So it's time we get seen and heard. Through Spilling Our Tea, I'm on a mission to support and empower Asian women by prioritizing our mental health and breaking down the myths of the model minority and showing up as our true unapologetic selves. So I'm Sandy Casano, a Korean Japanese American, first generation immigrant and third culture kid who's lived in 4 different countries and has an insatiable lust for traveling the world. I'm a coach, speaker, and your host today. So today's episode is sponsored by Joyful Optimist Coaching, where we support founders and entrepreneurs who desire to make an impact in the world by building businesses that are abundant, centered, and joyful. We know you can be both successful and joyful. There's an upcoming half-day workshop on busting imposter syndrome and becoming a better leader. You can check out the details at joyfuloptimist.com. So today on the show, we have Dr. Maggie Kang. Let me share a bit about her before we dive in. Dr. Maggie Kang is a certified life and healthcare coach who helps moms rebuild their lives after their child receives a difficult diagnosis. With personal experience as a caregiver for her daughter with a rare disease, Maggie empowers moms to navigate the healthcare system confidently and turn adversity into opportunity for growth and resilience. A Yale-trained physician and a rare disease advocate, Maggie has shared her journey as a TEDx speaker, reaching nearly over 200,000 people. Maggie, there's so much more to you, but I want it to come from you. So welcome to the show, Maggie.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm so excited to be here. And I think probably a good place to start in telling my story was the time that my daughter was diagnosed with a rare disease. And that was actually the reason why I gave the TEDx talk, to kind of share my story and the lessons that I've learned. And what happened was that she was actually this very robustly healthy child growing up. And I guess in my mind, I just thought that that's what we do. We would be healthy and kind of live our lives and have our goals and dreams. And then one day that changed, and she was diagnosed with a very serious, devastating neurologic rare disease called neuromyelitis optica spectrum disease. And this, without some of the therapies that are actually available now that actually have been FDA approved just within the last couple of years, you could die, be blinded, and you could be paralyzed. So this was not a disease to be taken lightly by any means. So she was in the ICU and struggled quite a bit. And that was sort of where my story began, where as a mom, I was crushed and I didn't know really what to do. And I obviously supported her. We learned so much about it together and we grew, and I stressed a lot, as I shared on my TEDx talk. And the thing about that stress was that I think I went to a place in my head where I sort of blamed myself for it. And what I learned later was that that story of self-blame was really a way for me to actually kind of distract from the actual pain of accepting the reality of what was going on for us. That she may not be that robustly healthy kid ever again, that she may not be able to play competitive lacrosse again. And who are we going to be? And do we change our goals and dreams? Like, what's going to happen with our lives? Just that uncertainty was so scary that I felt like I just couldn't mentally go there. What I discovered was that in not accepting it, I really created a world of suffering for myself that was probably unnecessary. And this went on for a couple of years. And that's when I sought out a coach, and this was at the time frame of the pandemic. So I had really a lot of time to sit with my own head and think about what was going on and what was useful for me and what I could do for myself to move forward. And more importantly, how I could be a model for my daughter and my family and how we could all move forward together. And that was kind of the transition point in terms of rebuilding my life and then in figuring out a way to help others do the same. So Nell and I actually are both rare disease advocates. We work for the foundation. We're both ambassadors to the Sumire Foundation and are really quite active in the rare disease world.
Oh, wow, Maggie. And I have to just advise our listeners to take, the 10 minutes it is to listen to Maggie's TED Talk. We'll share the link and put it in our Spilling Our Tea community. But, it was really profound for me, Maggie, as I listened to you on stage was that moment when you did get the diagnosis because, gosh, you're a physician. So, you know, but what I heard in your voice as you shared that experience was the mom and the fear and all the unexplained emotions that would come up. I couldn't even begin to imagine the numerous amount of emotions and just that moment. Can you talk about that moment?
Oh, yes, it's hard to forget actually. And every time I sit down and look at images, it comes back. And I it was so hard. I couldn't believe it actually the first time I saw it. I really just did not believe it. This has to be a mistake. It has to be someone else's. And I guess that's sort of my pattern at first. When things are difficult, I deny it and try to explain it away. But when I couldn't, it was like a very physical reaction. I could feel my legs sort of giving out beneath me, and I had to sort of hold on to the table to really come to grips with what I was seeing. It, I was crushed, devastated. I didn't know what to do. It was in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And I remember I had to call my husband, who is also a physician, but I collapsed on to the floor to have to explain to him what I was seeing. I think it's a moment in time where every mother worries that she may have to hear that terrible news, but you never think it's actually going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But then it did.
And you go on in your talk to talk about choice, right?
Yeah.
Choice of the thoughts as you move forward. And I bring this up because I think it's really important for us to talk about and for our listeners because just even the concept of understanding that there's a choice,
Yes.
and you know, I feel as though in our Asian experience and in the culture, sometimes that choice it's not obvious and it
Right.
feels like tell me if this is similar to what you feel, but I feel like in my Asian experience as a woman, it's almost like when you're in those situations, you should feel bad or you should choose misery.
And right.
We
I
laugh, but
know.
it's true. There's an
I
intrinsic
know. I
truth.
know.
Like there's
There's
a guilt if you don't, or like how
right.
dare you be optimistic and choose, to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. I know. There's almost sort of like a value in seeing people suffer and or like that you can endure suffering means strength or something to that effect. Yeah. I'm I think that all feels very familiar to me. And I think also the blame piece of it is also familiar to me. And I wonder if that's just sort of like a running story or narrative that I'm accustomed to, where it seemed like with a mom, or at least in my mom's situation, if anything happened with the kids, it was definitely her fault. That was like the first thing, my relatives would probably say, what did you do wrong? Why didn't you do it this way? And I think that that was sort of the story that was playing in my head, or the voice that was familiar to me. But I didn't realize that I had a choice until I spoke with a coach. And when I realized that, it was kind of, yeah, it was definitely eye opening when I started to really question the things that I believed to be absolute truth and fact. And when they weren't, it freed me up to decide how I wanted to move forward. And I actually then could start to move forward because up until then, I was really stuck. in my story.
Yeah. Stuck in your story.
Yeah, that it was my fault, that things were not going to get better. And yes, it felt terrible.
To build on that, Maggie, you just mentioned you worked with a coach. I feel like this is still a very new concept, and then in particular, a very, radical concept in
Yeah.
the Asian community to ask for help, to get
Yeah.
therapy, or to have a coach seems like a whoa, that's what, sorry to say, like Western people do, or what the Americans do, like, what is that? Why would I? Why should I? I can just figure it out on my own. What compelled you, or what was the difference for you in the experience of making the choice to get support and get a coach? How you said it helped you change your narrative, your story.
It did. Yes. I think for me, I had to hit actual rock bottom because I think up until then, whether or not I was fully aware of it, I was thinking, oh, okay, is this for weaker minded people? Like I think my parents were never really big on that. And I mean, sort of seeking out therapy. But even more than that, not only did I not talk to a therapist, but I talked to a coach, which was even more sort of in that unacceptable zone of like, what are you doing? But I think what happened was that I was searching for somebody in the pandemic to talk to. And I think during the pandemic, it was very difficult to find a therapist. And the whole online world was so crazy. And I actually started to engage for the first time on social media. And so in my Facebook groups, there was actually a Physician Moms Facebook group, and a lot of people were talking about coaching. And this was actually a very big thing amongst physician women who are burning out, especially during the pandemic. So, yep, that's kind of how I came to it. And I think my husband told me one day, "You need to talk to somebody, and you definitely don't look good. So let's do something." And he just sort of like pushed me into it, and that's what happened. And it was all on Zoom, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and just to normalize then that experience, can you just talk? I mean, you said, okay, it's on
Yeah.
Zoom and it's about, just kind of getting off what your chest, but what's the difference? Can you share what you think the difference is between therapy and coaching?
Right. So, as a client or a patient or whatever term you want to use, for me, the biggest difference was that I was so active in the process of it wasn't so much like I was sitting there and sort of complaining and whining, which is sometimes the way I feel when I'm in therapy. And that's not to say that therapy hasn't been helpful. Like, I think I had a acute trauma when my mom passed away during residency, and I was paired up with a therapist who had recently graduated from the psychiatric program at my residency. And it was like we were very well matched, and she helped me so much during that sort of acute crisis time. Since then, I had intermittently sort of checked in with therapists, and I hadn't found it to be hugely helpful. And it might have been because I wasn't paired up with the right person. But the coaching, sort of to differentiate those experiences, was more about her sort of teaching me techniques also to apply to how I was looking at my situation. And she really kind of broke down, sort of like you were saying, my ability to choose to think a thing that created a story that in turn created my feeling and experience in it. And when I could kind of see it through that lens, I realized that I had a lot of agency in it. And this is the part that I was really attracted to, that, oh, I could change my story, and okay, let's play around with that. And wow. And now all of a sudden, a lot of things start to lift off my shoulders. And I felt like I was not only, sort of in control of creating my narrative, but sort of looking in the past at how I had chosen to respond to that news, that personal crisis, and why I did that. I learned a lot about myself, about my agency, and about how I wanted to move forward.
Yeah, so empowering.
Right.
Empowering, yeah. And I believe that, as you said, coaching is about this forward momentum. Like, where do you want to be? And then let's get
Mhm.
there, and let's get there faster. Yes, you can do it on your own, but why struggle, or just expedite that experience and create different thought patterns or different
Yeah.
perspectives.
Yes, I love this idea of setting goals and creating sort of the, vision of what you want to create in your life. I was like, wow, I could do that. I was thinking, so it's not like just life happens and sometimes it's just, great misfortune or I'm unlucky or whatever. It's literally like I can create with whatever actually comes my way. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is that when, because I see that you're a physician, but you are also then a coach.
Yes.
Tell us about
So,
that.
right? Okay. So when I realized how powerful those tools were and how much it had changed my life and how I was able to really teach those same tools to my family, I was thinking, okay, I want to bring this to the broader community. And I want to do this more because the more I help people, I feel like it strengthens me. So that's how we started our work in advocacy and how we talked to folks in the foundation and other people who've reached out for support. So I will have to say also, speaking to the theme of being Asian American, that being a physician, obviously going to medical school is considered to be very acceptable amongst Asians. And it's very easy to explain. I'm a physician, and people get that. But wow, bringing up the idea that I'm certifying to become a coach, like when I told my dad, he had no idea what I was talking about, and I think he still has no idea what I'm talking about. So in his mind, I'm still just a doctor doing nothing else, and I'm like, wow, that's so interesting how you just sort of cut that out of your mind's understanding. But I really do feel like this was sort of an obstacle for me to get past when I certified to become a coach and I had to tell people about it and it felt like, hmm, is this not acceptable? How do I explain this to people? It's like my son, equated it to being like a tarot card reader. And I'm like, it's not exactly that, but it's interesting that this is like how little people know about the world of coaching. And I understand that it's certainly different and somewhat new.
Yeah, it is just, a burgeoning industry, I suppose. And then, yes, I experienced something similar when I told my mom, this is what I'm doing. And she understood, for the past like 15 years, I held this corporate job and I had titles and, she understood what I was doing. And then this was just like, you're what?
Yeah.
Would say it in all the ways I could say it. And she was just like, you're helping people? And I said, yeah. And she's like, good enough. Like, that's just,
Okay. Okay. Say, are you a therapist? Like, what exactly are you? I'm like,
yeah.
okay, you don't have to fully understand what I do. It's okay.
Yeah. But we are helping people. And I think there's
Yes.
value in um, having a partner to help one another reach goals, right?
Yes.
Reach them not alone, reach them with
Mhm.
agency. As you,
Mhm.
yeah.
But I've come to also, as a coach, because I so believe in these tools, I think it's getting me to a point mentally where it doesn't actually matter that, my relatives understand what I do or that I have to explain it to people. It doesn't matter. I can do that.
Maggie, I'm going to pause for 1 second, even though this conversation is fascinating. I'm just going to do a quick round of rapid fire questions and see what comes up for you. 5 questions, yes or no. And I invite you to close your eyes or lower your gaze and just let your intuition take the lead as you hear the questions and respond. Okay? You ready?
Ready?
All right. Do you believe it's possible to achieve success without sacrificing joy?
Yes.
Have you experienced discrimination or bias in your professional life?
Yes.
Do you believe you had to work harder than your peers to achieve recognition?
Not really.
Do you prioritize mental health in your day to day life?
Yes.
Do you feel optimistic about the future of for Asian women in leadership?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Open your eyes. Can you just curious, can you just share a bit about your origin story, where you were born and how your upbringing has influenced where you are today?
Yes. So I was born in New York. My parents are both Korean, and they both came to do their medical residencies in New York. Second of four. And let's see, my other origin stories. I think because they were both physicians, they, similar to many Asian parents, really wanted us to do well in school, work hard. They both worked extremely hard. They were both the firstborn of six kids. And so a lot of, like, they brought their families up to the United States. So we had these very big extended families where we were all sort of, I guess, doing the immigrant experience, if you will, all just sort of working hard to try to kind of create a life that is better than past generations. Um, so with that, I guess I decided to go to medical school. It just seemed like the very natural progression of things. And I was at Cornell. I majored in history, really loved that. Went to medical school. My husband and I got married, and we have two kids. So all of that was sort of on autopilot, I guess, as we talked about earlier. And I felt like I was sort of doing things as I should, and life was good. I really loved my family. And then I practiced in radiology for a couple of years. Nella was born, and then 8 years later, she was diagnosed, and then everything changed.
You know, what comes up as you share this is that you had this lived experience and you had the immigrant lived in experience, and then, you were in this pattern that, kind of prescribed in life happened in a way that, was unpredictable.
Yeah.
You've made these choices now, and, you have Nell and you have another child, your son. Like, what is this experience for you now as a woman, as an Asian woman, as an Asian mom? Like, the choices that you make, like, I guess what I'm getting at is there is this element of generational healing and generational elevation, right? Like, so not everything our parents did is going to evolve for our kids, right? Like, what are the lessons, or what are you learning, and what are the choices you're making?
That will then impact my kids and subsequent
Yeah.
generations. I see. Well, I feel like the biggest difference, I think, is this idea that I can just decide without kind of like the burdens of the shoulds and I have tos, that I could just decide how I want to move forward and create a life that I actually want to live. And I do believe that growing up, in my Asian community, Asian American community, I really felt like there were so many sort of beliefs that were kind of drilled into me that, oh, as a girl, oh, I have to like take care of my mom and dad. Oh, I'm one of the older siblings. I have to take care of all my siblings. And this is my job and I have to be a caregiver because I'm a woman. And so there was a lot of pressure to have to do all of that and to kind of do that for other people who came ahead of me because they worked so hard for me. So there was this tremendous sort of feeling of guilt and having to do and be and deliver in the manner that they had prescribed. I think with what happened with Nell, it was, I don't, in some weird way, kind of like an opening or freedom to take a different path where I could just decide. And then realizing that I could decide how I want to do things was huge. And this is what I teach my kids, that no, in life, you can do other things aside from just being a doctor or a lawyer. That was the way it was told to me. Like, there's nothing else that you can do. You have to get this, like, you have to be an Ivy League graduate. You have to get this degree and you have to make money to take care of everybody else and this kind of feeling. And I was thinking, that's just not a life that sounds really fun. And it doesn't give me a lot of space to be me and be creative. And so I feel like the life that I have created and have chosen to live now is more in alignment with who I am. And I think that that is the lesson I really, really want to impart to my kids. And I think they get it.
Oh, that's so powerful. And, I think that obviously ties into your response to, do you feel optimistic about the future for
Yeah.
women in leadership? Because we do have choice and we do have agency, and we don't have these boundaries, these.
No, because I think the boundaries were in our head in some ways. Like it was taught to us. It was taught to me. And once I realized that I could see beyond and be more than that, it was really empowering. But further to that point, I feel like as Asian women, I feel like we're all really strong because we've endured through a lot of that. And there's so much to be said for that strength and community and all of what we can share with each other and kind of support one another.
Yeah, it's not all lost and it's not all bad, right? Like I
No.
definitely not. I definitely agree with you that a lot of where I draw inspiration or strength is when I think of what my grandmother and my mom and what they've all, my aunties, like, I think of my grandmother. I actually wrote this post on LinkedIn yesterday or something, and it was about my grandmother. And as I did it, I realized so much of her life was about not having choice, right? She was born in North Korea and she was born, she was married off to a well to do family, not by choice, by, design. And then the Korean, there's Japanese occupation, there's the Korean War, there's just the need for survival. And then, immigrating to the US, you just had to do the job that you could get. Like it wasn't, by choice. You didn't have choice, or she didn't have choice. And she just lived this entire life that way. And what I had shared was that I think she was about 76, and then she said she wanted her American citizenship. And I was like, Harmony, why would you like, you've had such a good life. Like, why do you want to take a test and study and all this? It's like, I want to vote.
Oh, wow. Good for her.
She's like, I want to vote. She had never in her life had the opportunity to choose and the person that was gonna, become president, have that privilege. And so so she did it. She got her citizenship and she voted first and last time. She was able to, vote before she passed away. And for me, that story just really, as I reflected, just how grateful I am of what she was able to do so that I do have choice, and that it's my responsibility now to take that choice, like use what, you know, was given to me. So,
It's so interesting because my daughter and I were having a conversation about my mom, who is now passed away. So she wanted to know more about her because she was inspired by a book, Joy Luck Club, that she had read this summer. And what I told her was so interesting because now that we're talking about choice, is that, in her day, she didn't have as many choices that were available to us, but she still in her mind created a choice. And this is what it was. I'm a woman. I want to go to medical school and I want to leave Korea. I want to go to the United States. She made all of those choices while she was in college, even though everybody around her said, no, women can't do this. You're too weak. You should just get married. And this is not your thing. And so of, I think, 20 women that joined the medical school class, she was one of 5 to complete the
wow.
medical school and the residency. And she came to the United States, which, in her day, it's amazing that she was able to really commit to her choices and her decisions and to decide to do something despite what everyone else was saying. So this is a piece that I think my daughter really appreciated, just that amazing strength. And I do think that that has sort of been passed on in the DNA of her as well, my mother and my grandmother. So it is so interesting to really appreciate the generational sort of um, impact and the choices that they made during the time, even though it didn't seem like many options were available to them.
I love that, Maggie. And it's about what I'm hearing from you is, it doesn't always have to be, even though in your mom's case it was very big, right? But like even these little tiny
Yes,
shifts that we make, it's the ripple that carries
100%.
through. Yeah.
I mean, and in part of what inspired her to commit to these was this belief that she didn't want to depend on a man, that she herself was valuable. So a lot of those like little sort of beliefs that she had collected through her childhood and observing what was going on around her, I think led her to commit to these larger beliefs, these sort of dreams that I think people thought were impossible, but yet were definitely achievable, obviously, because she achieved it.
Oh, wow. So inspiring. I wish we had more time because I want to be able to explore more and hear more about Nell, but you and I have already discussed it, and we want Nell to be on this show too. He is an inspiration and a badass Asian woman to be. So,
Right? I know. She's only 16, but
hey,
definitely.
I mean, it's a testament to her life experience. And I can't wait to have her on this show. So, where I would like to kind of come to a close is if you could share with us what brings you joy.
What brings me joy? Oh, there's so much, really. So the little things, I mean, like today, really love this new pumpkin spice espresso that I'm enjoying. That will
Love
bring the
that.
great joy.
Yes.
Coffee, love it. You know, I'm really excited about the autumn weather. We're here in DC. Today's a little humid, but next week's gonna be beautiful. And I'm so excited about the holidays. And my
Mhm.
son is in college for his first year, so we're really excited about our first Thanksgiving. And just generally speaking, I feel like I experience so much joy seeing my kids grow, just grow.
Love that, Maggie. Just that spectrum of you finding joy in the small everyday as well as the big life moments. I think that's what joy is about, right? Is that it doesn't need to have a size. It permeates.
Yeah. And even that is a choice to see it, to appreciate it.
Love that. I love our theme today of choice. I think it is so important. I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful for everything that you're doing, Maggie.
Oh, I
Um,
feel the same way about you. I love all of this conversation about Asian women and what everyone else is doing and supporting each other. I think that's great.
Awesome. Thank you again. Your story is so inspiring and along with Nell's and serves as a beautiful reminder of the strength we found in embracing our heritage while navigating our paths with joy and resilience. And again, just understanding that we have choice in our thoughts and, in how we want to be in this world, our energy, our presence.
Yeah.
Yes. So for our listeners, I will be posting in our Spilling Our Tea community, Maggie's YouTube TEDx talk, and be sharing with you all the ways that you can find her if you are a mom and what her story it resonates with you. Please check her out. She could be the coach for you. So, for our listeners, my one ask today is that if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with someone you know who will also find value. Sharing our stories and normalizing conversations around mental health and how we overcome barriers are powerful steps towards greater understanding and our empowerment. So be sure to subscribe, like, follow, whatever you need to do so you don't ever miss an episode. And please join our community, Spilling Our Tea, to connect, share, and support one another. You can find us at joyfuloptimist.com/spilling our tea. So we're here to spill the tea on real stories, mental fitness, and the joy of living authentically. Thank you for listening.